So let's talk about the writing section of the KNAT, the Kaplan Nursing Admissions Test, or the Kaplan Nursing Entrance Exam. The writing section is going to be 21 questions, and you have 45 minutes to complete those 21 questions. So, with only having 21 questions, that means you really need to get as few incorrect as possible. I mean, that goes without saying, but because it's only 21 questions, if you drop 4 or 5 of those questions and get them wrong, it brings your score down quite a bit. So you really need to make sure that you know the ins and outs of all the topics that we're going to go over. We spent a lot of time really understanding exactly what's on this test, and all of these topics will be on the test. And they are all covered in the KNAT Tutor online course and in the KNAT full study guide from Smart Edition Academy. So check those things out there if you need more help on this stuff. And you're going to see spelling, okay? So vowels, A-E-I-O-U, consonants, everything except vowels, suffix, prefix, plurals, homophones, homographs. Those homophones are words that sound the same but have a different meaning, and homographs are spelled the same but have a different meaning. So know those definitions and kind of what makes them different. Know commonly misspelled words. Things like bear, B-A-R-E, or bear, B-E-A-R. And kind of don't get tripped up on that kind of stuff, because you might see some of this kind of spelling and have to correctly spell things. And one thing you can do is find lists of misspelled words, commonly misspelled words like accommodate, embarrass, scissors, vicious, vacuum, all words that we typically will spell wrong, and just practice writing those out until you feel much more comfortable and you're not making those spelling mistakes. And then know your rules. So things like I before E except after C, when to change that final Y to an I, when to drop the final E, all that kind of stuff. Capitalization, that's a pretty basic one, but there are a lot of rules. It gets pretty tricky. Things like geographic locations and event names. North, east, south, west. Sometimes it gets capitalized, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on how it's being used in a sentence. So you need to know those rules and kind of when you would capitalize something like that. Capitalizing organizations, publication titles, individual names, professional titles, months, days, holidays, all that kind of stuff. Know your punctuation. Okay, this is pretty basic stuff for grammar, terminal or ending punctuation. That is your periods, question marks, exclamation points. Know when to use them, how to use them, the correct way to use them. The internal punctuation. So those are your commas, your semicolons, colons, apostrophes, hyphens, quotation marks. Again, know when to use them and how to correctly use them. You will get kind of questions that might be something like, it'll have a blank space in the sentence, and it'll say which of the following corrects the sentence or correctly completes the sentence, and you need to know that punctuation or the 8 parts of speech. Another example of questions that you might see might be 2 sentences with a blank space in between them, and then it'll say to choose the correct punctuation. And so you need to know those parts of speech, nouns, how they're used in sentences, the different types of nouns. So you have singular and plural, you have common and proper nouns, concrete and abstract nouns. You have pronouns, know how those are used in sentences. So you have the subject pronouns, object pronouns, possessive pronouns, relative pronouns. You have adjectives and adverbs. So know the difference between those two. The adjectives and those articles, so a and the. Know your adverbs. Know how they describe different verbs, how they describe adjectives, and adverbs that describe other adverbs. So kind of know that stuff really, really well, because this is a lot of what you're going to see on this writing section. You've got conjunctions and prepositions, so know the types of conjunctions, the prepositional phrases. Know verbs and verb tenses. So those are those verb forms, the base form, the past form, the participle form. Know how to use verbs correctly. So like they ate, I walk, we went, she seems. Know helping verbs and progressive perfect tenses. So that's that kind of things around like to be, to have, to do. You've got your tenses, so present, past, future. Know the progressive and perfect tenses. So I am walking is present, and I was working is past. So know those kinds of things that you're very likely to see questions on things like that. No kind of knowledge of language stuff. So subject and verb agreement. Know the roles of subjects and verbs and kind of what they do and how they work, how they're used in simple sentences, how they're used in complex sentences, regular verbs and irregular verbs. You need to know all that stuff. Know those types of sentences. I just kind of mentioned some, but the simple sentences, the compound sentences, complex sentences, parallel structure, passive and active voice. Those are all things kind of around sentences. Types of clauses, independent clause, dependent and subordinate clauses, coordinate clauses, all things that you would want to know. Know about the modifiers. They make a sentence more descriptive. Misplaced and dangling modifiers, direct and indirect objects. So an object is something that is acted on, a subject does the action, and an object receives the action. So know the two types, direct and indirect. We can talk about root words, prefixes, suffix. Know those and know how to kind of be able to determine the meaning based on those three things and be able to kind of recognize them and be able to know what that means. You might get questions around context clues and multiple meaning words. So using context clues to determine the meaning of a word might ask you to define a word using context clues. That might be a question on the test. Multiple meaning words, that is like, multiple meanings like a current could be being up to date, being current on things, or it could be the current of a river, or it could be an electrical current. So kind of know that and what makes those difference. Season, could be a time of the year, or it could be a spice. So those are your kind of multiple meaning words. And know how to use multiple meaning words properly in the context that they're providing for you. Synonyms, antonyms, analogies, know all that. Synonyms are words with similar meanings. Antonyms are words with opposite meanings. Analogies are simple comparisons between two things. Most of this stuff, a lot of this stuff we've learned in high school, so it's just kind of revisiting a lot of this stuff. So that's going to be everything on that writing section. Again, it's only 21 questions, so there is a lot to know there, but it's a lot of kind of grammatical rules. So just know those rules, become very familiar with them, and you'll do great on this section. If you need more practice, check out the Smart Edition Study Guide or the Smart Edition Academy online course. It's going to have everything you need, practice tests, video lessons, all that stuff. So check that out in the links below. And good luck on the test, guys. Comment below if you have questions or if you think we missed anything that's on the test. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. All right, good luck on the test, guys.